Runners are in the starting position. Championship about to get underway, and here we go. 2019 NCAA Division I Men's Cross Country Championship is underway. 10K on this wet, soggy course. Will NAU win their 4th consecutive title? Will one of the teams dethrone them, the BYUs, the Colorados of the world? And who will win that individual title?
And I'm interested to see how NAU plays it. We've seen them do it 2 ways. A couple years ago, Day and Baxter went out very aggressively, ended up running alongside Justin Knight in the latter miles. Then last year, they flooded the top pack. They weren't with Morgan McDonald, but they had so many guys crammed in to the top 30. I'm just wondering what Mike Smith has devised for this race, because they are so meticulous. You see them on the right of your screen there in the gold, Luis Grijalva there behind Sam Worley of Texas. They are so meticulous in their preparation, so every little detail is accounted for.
It looks like their pack got out well.
And that's been an iconic piece of the NAU team the last few years, just seeing all those yellow jerseys in a pack right up the front. You know, I think the first, I remember a few years ago, you know, you saw that for the first time, and, you know, you said, man, are they going to be able to do this come Nationals time? And they've done it. And then you said, oh, will they be able to do that next year? And they keep answering those questions. And so will they answer the question today as we get ready to come down your first substantial downhill, as they're close to a half mile into the course, a little over half mile, or yeah, coming up to a half mile into the course, and they'll be hitting 1K here at the bottom of this when they take a turn.
That's Peter Sufer of Virginia Tech on the left side of the screen.
See on the left side also the white jerseys of BYU packed together. I think that's Connor Mance with the blue beanie and the mustache on there. Jared commenting earlier about trying to find the best mustache of the field today.
Hey, I'm on eyes for it today, so tweet at me if you see the best mustache.
The Campbell duo up front with Kyoko and Eamon Kemboy, also Middle Tennessee State. And that's Hofstra in the middle. That's Alex Masai. He's actually one of only 2 runners in this race who comes in undefeated this cross-country season. It's him and Edwin Kurgat. Masai hasn't run in the high-profile races, and in his last race at the Northeast, that was the road race that they had to run in Buffalo. But Masai, a little bit of an unknown quantity, what he can do in a field of this quality.
See, the conditions are getting a little rough out there. That rain coming down harder now than even it was for the women, and they thought early on that possibly the chances of rain would decrease throughout the day, but it's been quite the opposite. As you can see, it is soggy out there. You mentioned the duo from Campbell, Kevin Kemboy and Kyoko came in ranked in the top 20 in the flow track rankings individually. Kemboy ranked 6th coming in, Kyoko 18th, and up front now it looks like we're starting to get a little bit of a gap. You see the duo from Alabama in there in the top 6.
And Kyoko's had a very interesting season. Leapt onto the scene at the Live in Lou meet where he won and ran a superbly quick time, but then came to pre-nats and was all over the place, went out hard, then lost the pack, then came back to the pack, ended up finishing 22nd in that race, but he won his conference meet and then finished 2nd at the Southeast Regional. And again, another one of those runners where we don't know a lot about him. This is his first year in the NCAA. That's Athanas Kyoko, who's up front. And behind him, that's Vincent Kiprop of Alabama. Talked about him as one of the lead runners here. 2nd in the South region, but his other 2 races, he's won SECs and at Notre Dame. So that's Kiprop there in 2nd behind Kyoko. And then Peter Sufer of Virginia Tech on the left of screen. And that's Eamon Kemboy, also in the black jersey of Campbell's. That's Kyoko's teammate.
I see Luis Grijalva just to the left of the screen. Looks like he's leading for NAU. Oregon's got one up front as well, but not a huge pack of NAU together that you normally see. I think one off to the right, you see the yellow. Grijalva looked like maybe be by himself right now, but not the the best shot to tell where the full pack is. We'll get a better read in a few moments. We're coming up on the 2K mark.
You know, you can tell the direction of the rain and the wind. This uphill patch this is cold. This is cold, running a little bit uphill into the wet rain. You know, you turn the corner and you get a little bit of kind of a downhill with the wind at your back, and that feels a lot better. But the rain and the wind can make for a uncomfortable race.
Yeah, even if it's not as cold as it was in Madison, the conditions probably more bothersome here to the runners.
It's just so hard to dress for rain. You know, when it's cold, you can put on more clothing, but when it's rainy, that doesn't necessarily help you.
So 2K split should be coming in just a moment. NAU not as packed as they normally are. BYU has a few together. Oregon actually looks like they have a few up there, but tough to really sort it out with that tight of a group. So we're going to see in just a sec when 2K splits come up where these team standings are, as Kyoko from Campbell still leads right now. Kiprop, Alabama's faded back, but Mance has made his move up essentially to that lead chasing group, trying to run down Kyoko. You see him there on the right of the screen in the blue beanie.
He still looks very comfortable.
I feel like I want to say there's a cause for concern, because normally it's very easy to spot NAU. Right now it's not, and that is something that we're just unfamiliar with.
Well, you see Abdihamid Nur, I believe, there, and then just as you mentioned, that Grijalva in the middle of the pack. I saw Jordy Beamish and Theo Kwok's running together, the two New Zealanders. NAU's mantra is to not let anybody run alone. So when one guy moves, they're going to follow. And you're right, maybe just a little too congested here early on to see that separation. But now Grijalva is stuck in there in that pack. Ryan, I don't know, is he the only one in this second pack? Which is now turning into the first pack. It looks like everything's blending back together. But Nur in the headband and the yellow shirt, who's on the kind of the left side, and then Beamish there, mid-pack. I think they're fine. They may not be physically next to each other, but they're where they need to be.
I think right now BYU looks like they might have a slight edge. It's been tough to spot Colorado at the moment. So once we get splits through, we'll get a read here. And so splits will come, correction from what I said earlier, with 2K split. That was for women. Men's split will come in at 3K.
You know, Kevin, you mentioned as we started off today, though, that watching NAU, they've won it a few different ways. And a couple years ago, they were very much a presence in the front pack, and you could see them. And it maybe a little less so last year. And so it'll be interesting as this strings out and we can identify where everyone is a little bit better if we can see a cluster of that yellow.
Just over 8 minutes in here.
Yeah,
Tech leading.
Yeah, that's Peter Sufer. This has started a race. This looks like a race that has a lot of parity in it. So it's matching up. We haven't even said Edwin Kurgat's name, which I think is good news for Edwin Kurgat, because he does a good job keeping a low profile in these races. I'm assuming he's in that chase pack. He hasn't taken any of these moves seriously, but the lead now to Sufer, and then you see it strung out a little bit. Kyoko had a turn at the front. Just underscores how wide open this race is. So I saw Garnica and Owens there for BYU, running next to Quacks for NAU. Don't know which runner number they are on their team, but NAU and BYU in close proximity, that's no surprise.
So we are starting to get splits come in. You see on the map where they are through this first loop of this 10K course. Sufer runs through at 8:53. And BYU, the first team with 4 in. Now first team with 5 in, so unofficially they're leading at the moment. NAU not too far back at this early stage at 169. Colorado unofficially in that third spot, 172, right there with NAU. We mentioned it was tough to spot them so far, but that doesn't mean they weren't there. Stanford in 4th, 205. Oregon in 5th. As we mentioned, they look good coming into this early on. See your ACC champion there, Peter Sufer from Virginia Tech. Oh, you can see how slippery it is. Not great for him, but great for those watching to understand what the conditions are like out there at the moment.
puddles out there now at this point.
The rain just picked up another notch, so we can hear it here.
And, these guys are just tearing it up more for their second loop around on this same course. It's only going to get worse.
So unofficially right now, where we're at, BYU leads over Northern Arizona by a healthy margin right now, 57 points, 112 to 169. Colorado in a close third, Stanford in fourth, Oregon fifth, Notre Dame sixth, Purdue in seventh, Michigan is 8, Portland is 9, and Tulsa rounds out the top 10. Tulsa team, Jared, I think you might have called out for a surprise on the podium today.
There's a little race left.
NAU's 5 and 6. 5 and 6. Right now on the team score, 51 and 53. So no cause for concerns there. But BYU's 6th is 57 on the raw score. A drop off from BYU's 6 to 7. But right now the Cougars still looking good. Well, obviously no more at the 5K when this thing separates a bit, but NAU right now being led by Grijalva and Nur, and then Beamish and Quacks are running next to each other.
And NAU actually looks pretty good through 7 right now. Their 7th runner is ahead of Colorado's 5th, and their 7th runner is really close to BYU's 6th. So NAU through 7 looks to be strong pack-wise. So if either of the teams around them, BYU or Colorado, have any troubles around 5 or 6, then that could be a positive for NAU if they can hold it together where they're at now.
The only NAU runner not in that close proximity to the teammate is Drew Bosley, the true freshman, who's in 45th right now. He's a bit behind Nur and Grijalva, but a bit ahead of Beamish Quacks.
So Peter Sufer leading up front for Virginia Tech. He was 12th outdoors in the final in the 5,000 meters in 2019, just a few months ago. Led for quite a bit of this race, and this lead's starting to open up. He was 16th at this race a year ago, so it was no stranger to being in the top 20 or All-American, but this right now, he's putting a little gap on this field. I mean, it's a 10K. What does that mean for Sufer right now? Is this something he's going to just try and keep going at this pace, guys will chase him down, or is there, you see any shot where this keeps opening up?
Well, I think certainly at this point he's committed, and so he's going to keep the throttle down, and it'll just depend on maybe how much rope that pack gives him. But it seems like the pack feels fairly confident in their ability to bridge that gap. No one's leaving the pack chasing him, and it's still plenty early. The 10K is a long race, and on this course, it's even longer.
Sufer, not one that was talked about to contend for the individual title. Sheila, you've won individual title. If you're in that position, fighting for the title, you see someone with that gap ahead, but not someone that might be expected to fight for the title individually. Are you thinking, hey, they're going to come back, or how are you measuring it up? How big you let that lead go?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been in this position before, and I think when someone goes out like that, it's because they're giving themselves the best shot. So I don't think Sufer's trying to fool anyone. I think he's setting himself up to have his best race possible. But this pack is strong, and eventually they're going to start working together to reel him back in. It's still early days. We're not even halfway through this race.
Sufer, we mentioned 16th last year, ranked 19th coming into this race.
That second pack there includes Oliver Hoare of Wisconsin, former 1,500 meter NCAA champion. You see him there in the white for Wisconsin. And a bit surprised that there's not a heavier NAU presence right now at the front.
Yeah, looks like Grijalva and Nur there, maybe back in the 20s or so. Nance looks like he took off the hat. He's in that chase group. And there you go, that long exposed straightaway we've been talking about. Alabama right up there, as we suspected. Campbell looks like throwing off the gloves. It's race time now.
He's got that tailwind, and so he's feeling warm for a second.
So you see Nur there on the right for NAU. He's running right next to Grijalva, and then a couple spots back on the right is Beamish, but on the left is Drew Bosley, and Theo Quacks there in the mix as well. And Brody Hasty, it's tough. It's just tough to sort out here because there's so many people in such a small amount of time. This 5K split is going to be interesting to see in terms of team scores, but a lot of moving to come with how close these guys are all to each other.
Klecker right there up front looking good. Your Pac-12 champ looks smooth. He's right there with Dressel. So Colorado with 2 where they need to be. And NAU, I mean, I think right now BYU is in a position where they're probably still in the lead at this moment. So we're going to get the 5K splits here. And NAU's got the best 5th runner right now, but it wasn't enough to move up. BYU still in the lead, unofficially by 46 points. So the lead shrunk a little bit, but still a healthy margin. Colorado still within a few points of NAU, about 7 points back. Stanford still in that 4th spot. Notre Dame moves up a spot in front of Oregon. Iowa State moves up 4 spots. They were back in 11th, so they're in 7th now after the last few K. Purdue, Michigan, Tulsa round out that top 10. And, I mean, I think for BYU, they have to put themselves in the position early to be ahead of where NAU was. I don't think NAU is a team where you're coming back on them in the second half of the race traditionally.
It would be interesting to know the mindset right now of Mike Smith and BYU, the 2 head coaches, because Ed Eyestone, I know he believes in his group, but I've always known him to be a very practical guy. I don't think he wants to get ahead of his skis at all. So going into this, I wonder if he thought at 5K, we're going to be up on NAU, and not just by a point. I mean, this is a decent size lead right now, and they look really good. Heslington is scoring 15 points for them. He's at the 19th spot. Daniel Carney is scoring 23, and Brandon Garnica scoring 29. And then their final scorer here, their 5th scorer, Matt Owens, 46. He's in 55th place.
You know, this isn't too far out of where BYU hoped to be positioned at this point. I can tell you Coach Eyestone probably wouldn't have believed that they'd be up on NAU this much at this point. I think what's happened is, you know, we're just not seeing the NAU pack, the NAU All-American pack. I mean, talking pre-show, we're expecting 5, 6, 7 guys on NAU to be All-Americans, and they're just not in those positions yet. And so, you know, maybe they'll move. Maybe this is a team like Oklahoma State of the, you know, early 2010s, where they're going to move really well over the second part of the race. But it's muddy out there. It's heavy. It's, you know, it's kind of hard to move. And so, you know, this is a race where Coach Eyestone would be saying, guys, you want to be where you want to finish by 5 or 6K.
And this pack that you're seeing right now is where I would have expected to see at least 2, if not 3, NAU runners at this point. Not necessarily with Peter Sufer. You know, at the 5K split, Sufer was up 9 seconds on the pack. They don't need to be there. But this pack with Kemboy, with Mance, with Vincent Kiprop, with Edwin Kurgat, the 2 Colorado guys, Cooper Tier, Gilbert Keegan, Morgan Beadlescombe, they can run with that group. Jarrett Carpenter, Oliver Hoare. Those are runners that are at the level of NAU's top 2, 3, 4, or even 5. And we're not seeing them there.
I mean, Connor Mans could be a deciding factor in this race. If he can stay up there and NAU doesn't have anyone in that top 10, you know, that could be the only single-digit runner for those 2 teams. Right now, Colorado has 2 up there, so depending on how their 3, 4, 5 go over the next little bit, there's a pretty big drop-off between 5 and 6. So if 3, 4, 5 can move up, that'll be interesting for them having the 2 low sticks. But yeah, NAU right now, all their runners between 30th and 63rd, and that's through 7. So their 7 looks great. They're just not up as far up as we're normally used to seeing. As still Sufer up front for Virginia Tech continues to lead now.
And how unpredictable it is. 2 years ago, BYU came in, the team that was supposed to challenge NAU. They didn't run well. They finished 3rd. Last year, they scaled back the expectations. They got 2nd. But then they lost so many All-Americans. They lost Clayton Young. They lost Connor McMillan. They lost Rory Linklater. This was in many ways supposed to be a year where they were a little bit down, and now they'd find themselves a little over 3K from a national title.
Well, and not unlike NAU, you know, we kind of expected a little bit of a rebuilding year from them as well. But you know, both teams were deep, and both teams are deep, and so the depth really shows when you can turn over seniors like that, and then still have people come and show up at the national meet.
And again, we talked 4 freshmen on that team today, on that NAU squad, so it is a young group. I mean, we could see history either way, 4 in a row for NAU or the first ever for BYU. So again, we don't want to count out Colorado. Stanford's moved up, and they were over 200 points at 3K. Now they're within 14 points of Colorado in 4th on that podium spot. So a lot still to happen here.
Grijalva and Nur were still running together in the pack that's following this pack. This pack, of course, is following Peter Sufer.
Yep, and Kurgat leading that pack for Iowa State.
This
trying
is
to
really
close down Sufer there.
Yeah, this is really where I expected to see moves like Peter's that he put on so early. And I expect this chase pack now to be changing leads as everyone puts on their move for where they had calculated per this course and their strengths. This is kind of a downhill stretch for these runners, and so your downhill runners push that a little bit, and then we turn around and maybe we'll see some uphill runners that kind of keep that gas pedal down.
And this also appears to kind of be the first time that this pack is making a concerted effort to really reel Peter in. I think it speaks to kind of their confidence in that, but at what point do we sort of start talking about when they should be trying a little harder to get him back?
I mean, we're over 7K, and there they are. Now they're closing that gap. You can see Kurgat taking that lead. That group is separated. Alabama's 2 are separated at this point, but it looks like they're going to close down on Sufer. Cooper Tier in that lead group for Oregon. We haven't talked too much about him, as you see 2 from BYU in front of 2 from NAU there. Grijalva right there as well for NAU.
Drew Bosley looked like the true freshman, the first NAU runner. So I think BYU has 3 right now before NAU has 1. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously Colorado has Klecker and Dressel up in the front pack.
I think we just saw 6 of NAU come through. Here's 7th. So it looks like the 7th runner for NAU may be starting to fade a little bit. So that pack of 7 that they had, not able to stay together through the entirety, but still strong through 6. But BYU looking very good right now.
And this goes to what Jared was saying earlier about the conditions of the course, getting out early and establishing position, because it just seems so hard at this point to expect to make up a huge amount of points. Now, it's possible, because probably some people are going to go backwards dramatically in the last 2 kilometers, but with the course torn up the way it is, and with 8 kilometers already in your legs, it seems like a Herculean task to try to get back 15 or 20 points.
Well, yeah, you kind of put the ball in your court when you're in the position, because like you say, you do have to. People will go back, but the people that you're passing are the ones that are popping. It's not really like asserted efforts are going to be able to make big passes at the end of this race.
I think with Klecker in that pack, I gotta say, you gotta suspect that he's got a shot at this individual title the way he's been running recently. I mean, he's one of the top returners from last year. He finished 8th, right in front of his teammate Dressel, who's still in that group. But at this point, still in that pack. Klecker's run really well. Pac-12 was a great victory. He looked pretty smooth and comfortable at the mountain region, so he's not one to count out at this point. See that pack of runners. That rain getting all over the camera as well. It's coming in. Sounds like it's not as heavy rain, but it's still coming down.
We should get splits here momentarily, which is going to tell a big story, because at this point, it's only 2,000 meters remaining.
2K to go. Jared, how are you feeling? BYU is on the verge of history. This is something I'm sure you guys have talked about for years.
That's the thing. When you're on programs like this that are on the outside looking in to these dynasties and building, we're talking about this for years. And I remember as a senior at the end of the year saying, hey, someday BYU is going to win a national championship. And when that happens, I'm going to say this is my team. And so there's a decade of teammates that are watching and cheering for BYU.
So we just went through 8K. Sufer still leads. That lead is now within less than 2 seconds. 24:30 at the 8K. Colorado with the best top 2 right now, 2 in the top 10. And BYU with the first to have 3 runners in. Will they be the first to have 4? NAU has not seen their 4th yet. Colorado looking pretty good. Stanford's still right there. BYU now 4 runners scored. And NAU all of a sudden 6 runners in. So that lead for BYU is still there. It still is shrinking slightly. 46 points, so close to about what it was.
And the good news for NAU, because they're so far back, they can make up a lot of points. It's not like they're going to go from 5th place to 3rd place, but they need something to turn and turn quickly, because that is a 46-point margin. And actually, NAU and Colorado are tied right now with 167. Oh, wow. Colorado's 5th runner is scoring 81 points right now.
The challenge for those, for Colorado is their 5th runner is starting to fade. But NAU, their pack, the back of their pack is starting to fade a little bit. But up front, Sufer, who's been leading this whole way, has now been connected by Edwin Kurgat of Iowa State and Klecker just behind him. So Kurgat, your Big 12 champion a few weeks ago. Now with a step on Sufer, he was the favorite. A lot of us talked about early on. You see that mud on their back. He is now making the push for home. He's just over a K to go, about 3/4 of a mile, 1,200 meters. Mance right there, still fighting. He knows that it's not just about him at this point. I'm sure they're telling him out on the course, hey, we got a shot to win this thing. We need you up there. It could come down to a few points. Right now, I mean, the last 1K of this race, if BYU can hold it together, I think it's going to be hard for NAU and Colorado to close that gap.
Well, and that's what the coaches are screaming at him, and that everybody's hearing where the winning team's at.
Something just happened here with Kurgat, because it looked like Klecker and Sufer weren't that far, but Kurgat now putting in a surge, and it looks like Mance might be now moving into that 2nd position. So Connor Mance, a big run right now for him. We knew he was one of the top individuals, but he's doing it when it counts, and BYU is going to need him the most.
Edwin Kurgat, just so effortless. This is how he's run all of his races this year. It was so hard to tell how hard he was going, because you don't see it on his face. He just shuffles right along, and now he has a sizable lead.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough gap to close down as we're coming on about 800 meters to go. And that gap looks to be growing. Mance and Klecker back there. Looks like Kiprop as well. And Sufer, Cooper Tier dropped from that pack. He's there behind. They're running alone right now. But right now, Edwin Kurgat looks like he's got a shot to take home this title, his first cross-country title. I wouldn't say that gap is insurmountable at this point. There's still a ways to go, but he is definitely going to make it tough for the guys behind him. Klecker looking pretty smooth right there next to Mance, and he's moving up into that 2nd position. Is he going to make a bid to try and get Kurgat in this final K?
He's got a good 4 or 5 seconds, though, and it's hard on these tough straightaways if we make up a lot of time.
Hopefully we can hold this shot here for a moment. This is a great one to see where this team battle's shaping out.
That's Kyle Mao of Indiana going past Jarrett Carpenter of Purdue. Oliver Hoare fell back a little bit. And then,
so I see
Danny Carney and Jake Hesington of BYU. But then it looks like that NAU pack has moved up a bit.
So I still think it's three BYUs in front of NAU's first. 29 minutes on the clock. And we are coming around to the final straightaway.
For both a BYU or a Colorado, they need the 5th man. I mean, you've pointed this out, Ryan, but Northern Arizona has 6 guys right up there, and the 6th man for BYU and Colorado are back a ways, so they need all 5.
So Klecker now in that 2nd position. Will he have any shot to chase down Kurgat? I don't know. That's going to be a really, really tough task. But 400 meters to go or less than. It's Klecker, it's Mance, and it looks like Sufer is coming back. He led most of this race, finished 16th last year. This is going to be a huge improvement for him. but it's Edwin Kurgat up front for Iowa State. The senior coming down this long straightaway. You know, we talked about people finding their line. It looks like they put those dotted lines out this year to help them out. But you see Klecker on behind him on the right, Dressel back there for Colorado, behind Cooper Tier of Oregon. So still a great 1-2 punch for Colorado. Remember, BYU had a 46-point lead over Colorado and NAU, who were tied in third. But up front, we're going to celebrate this individual title for Edwin Kurgat. The Iowa State senior is going to win this thing, and looking smooth and comfortable. Just over 30-30. There you go. Edwin Kurgat, your 2019 NCAA champion. Joe Klecker behind him. Mance for third, but big points for BYU. Sufer in fourth. Kiprop in fifth. Cooper Tier is going to finish in sixth. John Dressel in seventh. It looks like Kimboy from Campbell in eighth. Keegan comes back for Alabama at 9. Purdue, Tulsa,
Jared Carpenter there, and then
Indiana.
Kyle Mao.
So your top 11. Tulsa's got another. All right, let's watch. BYU's got 2 in. BYU's got 3, just in front of NAU's first. NAU's got 2. Stanford's got 3 that just rolled in. NAU's got Beamish. Colorado's right there with them. Got BYU again. That's 4. BYU's 5. 5 in for BYU. This might be a tough one for anyone to overtake. BYU may have just won their first national title. Grijalva looked like maybe Herrera for Colorado, and NAU maybe just had 6 in. I don't think that's going to be enough. Here we go. The scores unofficially. BYU at 109. NAU at 163. Still waiting for Colorado. I think we don't know the official scores, but I think it's safe to say that BYU just won their first national title.